Welcome to True Life Lessons, where we explore the profound journeys of the human spirit through stories of meaningful personal change. Meet Michael, a man of sharp intellect and boundless confidence who walked through life believing he held all the answers. His mind was a library of facts, and he never hesitated to share them, regardless of whether anyone actually asked. For Michael, every conversation was a potential debate, a battlefield where he needed to prove his superior knowledge to everyone. He believed that being factually correct was the highest virtue, oblivious to the invisible walls he was building around himself. He would correct strangers on minor details like the precise closing time of the local market, needing to enforce order. He even lectured experienced farmers on soil composition based on books he read, ignoring their decades of practical, hands-on experience. Slowly but surely, his friends began to drift away, finding his constant need for correction exhausting and emotionally draining to bear. Conversations with him felt less like a connection and more like a rigorous exam that nobody had signed up for. One afternoon, Michael crossed paths with Elias, an elderly man struggling to carry a heavy basket of fresh red apples. As Elias stumbled and the apples rolled across the pavement, Michael stepped forward, but his instinct was not to help. Instead of bending down, Michael stood over him and explained the physics of center of gravity and proper lifting techniques. "You really should distribute the weight evenly," Michael advised, completely missing the immediate human need for assistance right before him. A stranger rushed in to help gather the fruit, leaving Michael standing there with his correct but useless advice hanging. He walked away convinced he had done a favor by sharing his knowledge, blind to the lack of compassion shown. Elias lived in a humble wooden cottage by the river, a place of beauty that Michael had often criticized loudly. Months ago, Michael had warned Elias about the floodplain data and the statistical probability of disaster in this zone. Then came the day when dark smoke billowed into the sky, marking a tragedy that would test Michael's character severely. Michael arrived to find the structure damaged and charred, with neighbors gathering around to offer support to the shaken old man. Elias sat on a nearby log, covered in soot, looking at the remnants of his life with a heavy heart. Michael approached him, and his old habits kicked in instantly, bypassing empathy to reach for his favorite tool, logical correctness. "I told you so," Michael said. "Living this close to the river creates a wind tunnel that makes fire uncontrollable." The air grew heavy as neighbors turned to glare at him, shocked that anyone could be so cold in such a moment. He continued listing the safety violations, convinced that analyzing the cause was the most helpful thing he could possibly offer. Elias looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and wisdom, and gently raised a hand to stop him. The silence that followed was louder than the fire as Michael finally paused to look at the human being before him. "My son," Elias said softly, "sometimes people do not need to hear a lecture about how they were wrong. They just need to feel that someone cares." Elias finished, his words piercing through Michael's armor of intellect and pride. Michael watched as a neighbor simply wrapped a blanket around the old man, offering warmth without uttering a single word. In that moment, Michael realized that his library of facts was useless compared to the simple language of human kindness. He stepped back, a wave of shame washing over him, realizing he had been correct, but completely failing to be kind. That night, Michael sat alone in his apartment, the old man's words echoing repeatedly in the silence of his room. He realized he had spent his life building a fortress of rightness, but it was a lonely place to live. Knowledge had given him power, but it had stripped him of connection, leaving him isolated in his tower of truth. The next morning, Michael returned to the river, not with advice on rebuilding, but with hot coffee and fresh food. He found Elias clearing debris and simply joined him, working silently side by side without offering a single correction. Elias looked at him with surprise, then a warm smile appeared, and together they lifted the heavy burden of recovery. There were moments Michael wanted to direct the process, but he chose to bite his tongue and just be present. Over the following weeks, a subtle transformation took root in Michael, shifting his focus from his ego to his heart. At work, when a colleague made a mistake, Michael learned to offer support rather than showcasing his own superior intelligence. He replaced phrases like, "You are wrong," with, "Let us explore this together," building bridges where he once built walls. The tension in the room evaporated, replaced by collaboration, as people felt safe to share ideas without fear of judgment. He reconnected with friends, learning the art of listening, discovering that understanding others was far more satisfying than correcting them. A genuine smile began to appear on his face, born from the joy of connection rather than the thrill of victory. One evening, sitting by the river with Elias, Michael realized he had learned more from silence than from all his books. He looked at the old man and thanked him, acknowledging that true wisdom is not about knowing, but about understanding. Elias smiled and shared a final thought. Being right might make you respected, but being kind makes you loved. Michael finally understood the balance, choosing to weigh his words carefully and prioritize the feelings of others over facts. Walking through the park, he saw a child drop an ice cream cone, and he simply stopped to help clean up. He bought a replacement and shared a smile with the mother, knowing that a small act of kindness solves everything. His life became richer, filled with laughter and genuine friendships, replacing the cold isolation of his days of being right. He was still smart, still capable, but he had learned that intelligence must be tempered with a gentle and humble heart. The story of Michael reminds us all that while facts are important, they are cold comfort when the world burns. Wisdom begins when the ego ends, and when we realize that being human is more important than being correct. We often fall into the trap of proving ourselves, forgetting that the people around us are not problems to solve. True wisdom is not found in knowing more than others, but in feeling more for them in their times of need. Let us choose to be kind over being right, to offer a hand instead of a lecture, and to listen. When we drop the need to be superior, we open ourselves up to the incredible beauty of shared human experience. Like a garden that needs water, not just structure, our relationships thrive on empathy, not on rigid rules and facts. Michael's journey from arrogance to humility teaches us that the smartest person in the room is often the kindest one. He found peace not in winning arguments, but in the simple, quiet moments of helping others carry their heavy burdens. His friends returned, drawn back by the warmth he now radiated, proving that love is the ultimate magnet for connection. Someone noted he had changed, and Michael simply smiled, knowing he had finally grown up in the ways that mattered. He used his intelligence now to entertain and educate with love, rather than to belittle or demonstrate his own superiority. Life flows much smoother when we stop trying to control the current and start learning how to swim with others. Remember this lesson well. Being right might earn you respect, but being wise and kind will earn you love. Ask yourself today, do you want to win the argument, or do you want to win the heart of another? The world has enough critics and correctors. What it desperately needs more of are healers, helpers, and listeners. Let your legacy be defined not by how many times you were right, but by how many people you uplifted. As the sun sets on our story, let the transformation of Michael inspire you to embrace humility in your life. Every interaction is an opportunity to choose kindness, to suspend judgment, and to offer the gift of your presence. Walk your path with an open heart, and you will find that the world is a friendly and welcoming place. Be a lighthouse of compassion in a stormy sea of opinions, guiding others with warmth rather than blinding them with glare. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery, and may you find the courage to choose kindness always. This has been True Life Lessons. Subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and feed the soul. Goodbye.